Hello everyone. Before we start today's video, if you could all do me a solid and lightly tap the like button, perhaps share the video about and leave a comment. If you are not subscribed, subscribe as well. It would greatly help this channel. Thank you very much. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's log, subdates 221121.5. With World Cuck in full swing, I've decided to take the day off in my shuttle pod and play Pokemon Violet. I may have taken Crumble's copy, and I don't feel guilty about it. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'd like to talk about Disney. They're going through a bit of a turbulent time of late. Go figure, after years and years of putting out things that people really don't want. Live action remakes, and I have a kitten on my this could be interesting. Don't step on it, thank you. So with the live action remakes, you also have the fact that they've been producing a lot of really bad Star Wars. Quickly, we spoke about it more recently, and I think I got my point across. Less is more, and let's face it, if you want to give the fans what they really want and entice newer fans, perhaps go with what the fans want, and they themselves will promote the crap out of it so that more new people will see it. It isn't necessarily about gatekeeping, but ensuring that what you produce is the best, especially when at the moment it is believed that only Andor and Mando are any good. So desperate to get the MCU back up and running because Phase 4 has floundered that you are desperately still trying to push the MCU, as it has been dubbed by most people on social media, which understandably has been critically panned by so many people. And let's not talk about Thor Love and Thunder, that was a train wreck, alright? But again, this whole throwing everything you have at the customer just to get something to stick, and when it does, merch everyone, merch, buy all our merch, it gets quite tiresome quite fast. Disney have their fingers in a lot of different pies, which means they have quite a monopoly, which I find quite frustrating because it leads to less innovation, especially when they control it. The idea of a superhero existing is now exhausted. While it still makes money, it's still pretty boring. You can't deny it. It's been over 10 years now. The man that headed Disney Entertainment is Bob Iger. He had headed the company for 15 years before he was replaced by Bob Chapek in February 2020. So since then, whatever has been produced, that's his fault, okay? Bob Iger is incredibly proud of what he's accomplished in the 15 years that he was there, and understandably so, but we should of course point out the newer Star Wars movies on your watch. Just thought I'd point that out. Iger was in fact the chairman until 2021, and has recently come back into the news because Bob Chapek, who was the chief executive, is gone. That didn't last long, did it now? He has agreed, Bob Iger, to stay for 2 years. During that time, his intention is to find a successor to lead the company. Well, if you really want it to go up and up, might I recommend Kathleen Kennedy? No one? No one's okay with this? Alright, I guess I'll take that back. This turbulent time for Disney has in turn manifested in a way that hurts everyone who's an investor in Disney. Their share prices are plummeting. Disney Plus makes a loss. This big deal about making all these Marvel TV shows and all their movies going over there, and it's not making any money. After COVID, this makes sense. Netflix suffered the same fate. Why? Because people are going back to work. People want to use their money for subscriptions instead on a holiday where they can buy some sangria. Because for 2 years and more, people have been cooped up, and people want to let off some steam. Watching the tired, regurgitated crap is not going to cut it. Netflix used to do a thing where they would constantly give you money to get at least 2 seasons of something out of the way, and if it stuck and did well, they'd keep going. Not anymore. Their more recent dumb investment concerns Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. For Disney, it was constantly pushing this particular narrative. Certainly with the MCU projects, it was the same thing. Really watch them back, it was the same thing. It was bad, alright? And I don't think anyone, Scarlett Johansson especially, can forgive you for what you did to Black Widow. She had one chance to finally be at the front, and you cucked her. Congratulations. As well as overseeing the launch of Disney's streaming service Disney+, Bob Iger drove major acquisitions which involves the likes of animation studio Pixar, comic book company Marvel, Rupert Murdoch's 21st Century Fox, and Lucasfilm. So when you look at what he has acquired over the years, Now you understand why I made the point about a monopoly. As well as amusement park openings, this helped the market value of the company increase 5-fold during his time in charge. This year alone though, Disney's share prices have fallen by 40%. Not 40. The company put billions into Disney Plus. No doubt they thought if we create these shows, some might be able to then go from the screen to like the bigger stage. The bigger screen. I should have gone with from TV to screen, shouldn't I? Sadly, that hasn't happened. Add to that for any of this to really make a lot of money, people are going to have to start buying a lot of merch. If you're in the UK, you'll know this. There aren't any Disney shops here anymore. Those shops are really popular. I remember them existing when I was at university, and they only went after Brexit. I understand why fully, but the money was easy there, really. It was very easy. I did do a quick Google. There are a couple left in the United Kingdom. There used to be a lot more. In every major city, there was one. The same could be said for any large town. For Bob Chapek, though, there was a problem. And the problem wasn't of his own making. During his time, he had to shut down the theme parks. The theme parks make a lot of money. Susan Arnold, in a statement, said, "We thank Bob Chapek for his service to Disney over his long career, including navigating the company through the unprecedented challenges of the pandemic." You left out the WWE's version of this, which would be, "We wish Bob Chapek well in his future endeavors. No doubt he'll start competing for AEW in the near future." This all comes weeks after the company said that Disney Plus lost nearly $1.5 billion or £1.3 billion in the 3 months to the end of September. You would have thought they would have gotten good viewership then, but then at the same time not. Why? Summer holidays happen then. People aren't going to be watching much content because they want to enjoy their summer, and it was a banging summer. Disney now has more than 235 million subscriptions across its 3 streaming platforms. This includes ESPN Plus, which is sports, and Hulu. It has outstripped Netflix, which has 223 million, but they need more because they spent too much money. Another issue that's arisen that was mentioned is that Bob Chapek faced pressure because of his response to Florida's controversial Don't Say Gay bill. In March, he had to apologize for his painful silence on the sex education bill that critics had said would isolate LGBT youth and saw him blasted by employees. After this, Bob Chapek spoke out. Florida had already passed a bill to strip Disney of its special tax status in the state, which had essentially allowed the company to control the area in Orlando where its theme parks are located. There was also the issue with Scarlett Johansson. After the announcement of the immediate replacement was made, Disney shares closed more than 6% higher on Monday. Walter Todd, the president and chief investment officer of Greenwood Capital, said that Bob Iger is someone who is synonymous with Disney. He oversaw some of the most successful acquisitions in the company's history, so I think there's a fair amount of confidence in Bob in his vision for the industry. For the next 2 years, sure, while he also goes on a mighty quest for the glory of Dundee to find a replacement and successor, like a good Sith Lord. Mr. Todd said that Bob Iger's track record at Disney was why he had such respect in the industry, adding that we'll only get you so far, so I'll be very interested to hear what his vision is for the company going forward. A Disney shareholder and founder of the Inside the Magic fan community called Ricky Brigant compared Bob Iger returning to that of Steve Jobs returning to Apple in 1997, with him telling the BBC that although the company had recently gone through some rocky patches, Bob Iger has the ability to literally overnight change the public's perception. This all on the face of it seems quite promising for Disney then, doesn't it? Senior Walt Disney executives have led a rebellion against Bob Chapek in recent weeks, which is what actually resulted in his ousting in the first place. The campaign itself began in the summer and came after he'd lost the confidence of some members of his top team during the 33 months at the helm, which does indicate there was some thought that went into this. I guess what makes this quite interesting for Disney and for Bob Chapek is, not long before he was ousted, he'd signed a contract renewal for 3 more years, which at the time had quashed any speculation of an exit. Some had indicated Bob Chapek was very much aware of these moves against him, with executives going to each other and then to Susan Arnold, the chief executive. The reason I mention this is because Bob Chapek, because of that contract, under his old contract, he was entitled to a $54 million in cash, dollar, and stock in the event of an early termination payment, right? There's no version of a reality where Disney don't have to pay a significant amount of money to Bob Chapek. After all they've lost, they're going to throw away even more, which is understandable because they want to make sure the company in the long term continues to go up. And a final detail about Bob Iger: 4 times in the past, he had delayed his retirement before he left the company. He has another problem to deal with though, not just to turn the fortunes of the company around, but steer it through an inevitable recession. Many are already talking about it. The UK is definitely going into one. I sorely doubt the US can avoid it, but I, in all instances, do not want that to happen to anyone. So I'm intrigued to see how Bob Iger does. The final point I'd like to make is if you want someone to push forward with the company, you need someone to push forward with not only the knowledge of the source material, but somebody who respects it. Somebody who is passionate about what they make. These movies, these shows, what we have seen so far, have been embarrassing. Only a few have really shone, and that's not good. That's not good at all. You've hedged your bets and then deviated in a lot of instances where you could have stayed true and made more money, but also used something that would have been more critically acclaimed by not just the paid-for journalists, but also by those that go and watch it. If your legacy is known only for ruining things, you are not going to make money in the long run. The time of ignoring the fans, the time of ignoring the casual viewer should be over. Stop trying to appease a generation that doesn't even understand what they're watching. Target it at those that do know what they're watching, because they will help you. So who do you get to replace Bob Iger in 2 years? That's the real question, because it's got to be somebody who actually cares about the product they are making. With your fingers in so many different pies though, you're going to need more than one person really, because you really can't do all of that and be successful. I still like the idea of this delusion that economy's based on endless growth. That's how many perceive what we should be doing, what a company should be doing, not realizing it is well and truly unsustainable, especially when somebody at the top does not care.